Hey guys, welcome to Monday. Welcome to another backdrop. I just made it to Minneapolis a few hours ago. So I drove 2 days to get from North Carolina to Minneapolis, and yesterday was quite the adventure. I thought it was going to be a 10-hour drive. It ended up being almost 13 hours on the road. And I got stuck in one hell of a thunderstorm. And so, yeah, luckily it was shorter. I got you, Shakti. Hi.
Hey, I'm listening to some reggaeton in the background, obviously. My usual. What I usually go to feel fire, because right now what I want is a nap. I'm not gonna lie. I'm in nap mode.
Girl, I know. I still have to go to the grocery store after this. I have to go to the grocery store and I have to finish work because I'm traveling for 2 days.
I just finished working, like just now. So it's been like parent mode, like just like be with baby, like evening routine, because Jose's like gonna be home super late. And then I'm like, wait, I gotta go finish what I was doing. Like, I have this list. I gotta go do the list. I'm like, I can't leave my list hanging. I gotta do the So I'm like in squirrel mode, and I totally got bit in the neck by a mosquito. Like, who does that, mosquito? Like, so disrespectful. Pick somewhere else.
Girl, I'm in Minnesota where the mosquito is the state bird. Like, hey, David.
That's fucking terrible. That sounds awful. The worst state on the planet. Remind me to never fucking go there.
But it's beautiful in the summer. It's beautiful in the summer because it's like warm during the day but cool at night. It's actually warmer here though than it was in North Carolina, which is weird to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, but the summers in Minnesota are beautiful because, yeah, you get summer during the day and then typically cool at night. As you guys are hopping on, say hello to us. Let us know where you're watching from. I feel like we don't even know where most of these people watch us from. I would love to know. But apparently, this is funny though. So on our like page, it'll tell us like what demographic we're popular with. We're popular with women between like 31 and 45 in Florida. I'm like, sounds about right.
That sounds about right. Although on my Instagram, it's all 25-year-olds from Miami that follow me, and I'm like, oh, okay, what? How did that happen?
Because you tag Miami in a lot of your shit. In your stories?
I do, but I just started doing that, like even before then, and they're all 25, all at that age. I'm like, 5 years ago for me, but if you feel like I'm one of you, okay.
That's funny.
It is funny. Makes me feel younger.
Funny. Yeah, I mean,
wow. All right.
I love how I'm sharing now. I was just saying, I love how my background is different again. You know, every once in a while I have to switch it up. So I'll be here for this week, and then next week I'll be in Iowa. So it'll be different again next week.
Tampa, Florida. All right.
Jenny, eternally 25.
Eternally 25. Apparently that's my age, Jenny. That's also my age. It's my age on Instagram. That's what I'm about there. Oh, hello. Aw, David Moss. Thank you. So sweet.
I know,
I can't
right?
take any comments on my phone. Oh,
why?
There we go.
Okay.
I'm tired, obviously.
This is going to be an interesting one because Shakti and I are both like exhausted. So,
yeah.
I was going to say, good luck, guys. We might need your help with this conversation.
We might. I'm gonna intro where this conversation came from in a second, because Anne wrote to me today and she's like, "What do you want to talk about?" And I was like, "I think I know." And I did talk a little bit about this on my IGTV. I made an episode about this. If you don't follow me on Instagram, it's Spirits at Shakti. It's the same name as my like page. But let me share this out one more time. Please tag people if you feel like this conversation piece is going to be useful to anybody that you know.
Tag people, share it out.
Yeah, those people who are like eternal qualification seekers, this might be a good video for you to share with.
I actually have someone I need to tag. If I can let me. I'm like, I know exactly who needs to. I don't know that I can tag on here though. I'll tag her after the fact. Okay.
Posted. All right. So where this conversation came from is I am an ex-degree seeker. And I will say that I've spent a good portion of my life accumulating a lot of really important certificates. I have a dual bachelor's degree from the University of Florida. I'm also a massage therapist from Florida School of Massage. I'm also a minister. I'm also a yoga instructor. I have a lot of certs. I know how to operate a lot of body sculpting machines. I'm certified in all those things. And for a long time in my life, because I was very intelligent and I was applauded as being very intelligent, and my parents are immigrants. So they come here with this, like, you can get an education here, where we could not get an education. And so we want to give you an opportunity to do that, because that means you're going to make more money and have a more prosperous life. And that is a very old world mentality. Once upon a time, this was accurate. It was accurate to say you could go to school, you could get more of an education, you could get a better job. In our new economy and the way that we are going, especially since the digital age, that no longer at all applies. In fact, I am adamant in saying that unless you have a very distinct passion for something very specific that requires a degree and advanced education, you are much better off becoming a business owner of any kind, brick and mortar, service industry, even going to trade school, getting a massage license like the one that I have. You are much better off doing something of that nature to create a life of prosperity than you are going for higher education. It's just, the trade-off is just no longer what it used to be. And I wanted to talk about this specifically because I have a lot of people that I work with that are either my clients or people who are potential coaches who are thinking about joining the team, who are constantly like, well, I need to get certified in this, I need to get certified in this, and then I'll have clients, and then I'll be able to feel successful, and then my life will flow. And as someone who used to believe that wholeheartedly, I was that person who thought that that was true, I can tell you right now that's absolute bullshit. 1000% bullshit. And if you follow that, you are setting yourself up for a trap.
Yep. A
massive trap that's going to be very, very, very disappointing. Understand that this equation makes no sense. Accumulating more debt to make future more money is not a good math equation. And what that's going to lead you to is a lot of debt, a lot of dissatisfaction, and no way out of the situation. Okay? A lot of people think short term, and they think, I'll just accumulate $30,000, $50,000 worth of debt with this master's degree that looks really pretty on paper. And then, of course, when I get a good job, I'll be able to get myself out of debt. And that doesn't work that way. It doesn't happen that way. Even for physicians, who are supposed to be one of our highest paid, most acclaimed roles in our society, a lot of them are drowning in debt, literally drowning in debt, barely making it by, barely, charging $10,000 for cesarean, barely making it by, okay? Understand that getting more debt with this illusion that you're somehow going to make more money, that doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. That's not the math equation, okay? And this piece came up from reading Napoleon Hill, which I'm listening to right now, and he talks about the difference between generalized knowledge and specialized knowledge. And he gave the example of Henry Ford and Andrew Carnegie, and how they became, these huge empires in the car industry and the steel industry. Two men with very little education, in fact, almost none, especially in the arena where they became really important. But what they did is they found people who had a lot of education in certain specialized fields, put them together, created a huge industry, and became multimillionaires. So Needless to say, his point was saying that you don't always need to have that, to have what you're looking for, especially if the aim is to have a more prosperous life, to have a more abundant life. I mean, think of some of the CEOs that we admire, right, of our time. Steve Jobs, look at what he created. Steve Jobs is a college dropout. He doesn't have a degree after his name at all, not one single one. But his vision was what created this monstrosity that became Apple, right? So this illusion that if we just get more educated, we're actually going to be able to have more money, it's exactly what it is. It's an illusion. And Anne's story is one of my favorite stories when it comes to this illusion, so I'm going to let her share it.
Yeah, Shakti and I were talking about this today, and I was like, isn't this fucking ironic? So, can you still see me? Because on my computer, I have a blurry screen. But I guess it's...
You look frozen momentarily.
Well, regardless, at least you can hear me. But on my computer, I'm like blurry, and there I have a microphone in front of me or something. So, anyway, yeah. All right. So my story is that I went to college, as many of us did. Got my bachelor's degree in special ed, my master's degree in early childhood, because I was going to be a teacher. And, you know, probably one of the biggest reasons there are two reasons I got my master's degree. One was because I needed to have, well, I didn't need, but I chose to get an internship, or to have an internship. And the only way I could have an internship was to take it. It was available through the master's program. So I got my master's for that reason, but also because in education, you are paid more money based on degrees that you have and credits that you have. Well, degrees, college credits, right, hours, and also how many years you've been teaching. So I was like, why wouldn't I get a master's degree? Because I can make more money. So I taught for 7 years in 3 different states. By the time I got to Chicago, I had taught in Chicago for 1 year, and there were 50 school closures. Many of you know this part of my story, but there were 50 school closures, and because it was my first year in Chicago, I lost my job. I didn't have tenure, right? And so I thought, no big deal. I'll just get hired in another school in Chicago. There's how many schools in Chicago? I was extremely confident in myself as a teacher. I know that I'm a highly qualified teacher. I know I'm a bomb-ass teacher. And I knew that any school would be lucky to have me. Like, I could go in and nail any interview. The problem was that I couldn't even get an interview. I had one interview at the school that I had formerly taught at. I was basically interviewing to get my job back. I was like literally interviewing for the exact same position that I had already taught, right? And I thought, it's a no-brainer. Of course I'm going to get this position back. I was an amazing teacher, and I received the news that not only did I not get the position, but the person who was hired was a first-year teacher with a bachelor's degree. And it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what had happened. I knew, right, that I did not get hired because I was too expensive. I had a master's degree and I had 7 years experience in the classroom. And so beyond that, not only could I not get the job back that I was highly qualified for, like all of my ratings were, you know, excellent ratings, like any observation my principal had done, I like nailed everything, right? Like my principal loved me. It was a new principal, but that's not the point. Like my reviews were very high. I was a highly qualified teacher. And I couldn't even get an interview at any other school. I spent months sending resume after resume after resume after resume to any school. At first I was picky, right? At first I was like, okay, these are the neighborhoods that are easy for me to get to. These are the neighborhoods that I'd want to teach in. And then I was like, all right, now we're just going to send this shit anywhere. Like, I just need a job because I'm not moving out of Chicago. I need a job in Chicago. I didn't have a car, couldn't get to the suburbs, right? I was like, I don't know what else to do. And so I don't even know how many resumes I sent. And I called and followed up with principal. Like my phone calls weren't getting returned. It was just like dead silence, could not get an interview. And I just thought, how ironic, right? That and not only this, right? So how ironic that I chose to get a master's degree so that I could make more money. And then when I got laid off, I was too expensive to hire back. And then on top of all of that, I haven't been in the classroom, guys, for 5 years. Guess who still has student debt? This girl. Like, it's a fucking joke. And I've told honestly, any person I have talked to who is either going to school for education or is in an internship or is a new teacher, I have no shame in saying, for the love of God, don't do it. Don't do it. Like, there's so many other things that you can do. Don't do it. And then, I've been a coach for the last 4.5 years, and I've taken other, I took a life coach class. I took Gabby's Spirit Junkie Master class. I've taken all these things. But the thing is, like, my clients don't care. My clients don't ever ask, like, oh, are you a certified life coach? What other courses have you taken? How do you know how they don't care. No one asks me that, right? And then when I had been doing this for a little while, my grandma ended up reaching out to me, and she was like, you're so good at what you do. Like, you really love to help people. Have you ever considered going back to school to become a therapist? And I was like, fuck no. I mean, I didn't specifically say that to my grandma, but I was very clear. I was like, hell
no, grandma.
Hell to the no. Hell to the no. Hell no. And she was offering to basically send me back to school. And I was like, no, it's a waste. Because here's the thing. Not only if I went back to school, right, to become a therapist, not only would I go back in debt, or at least have someone else going in debt, but on top of all of that, I can't set my prices the way that I do as a coach. So it's like, to be a coach specifically, not only do I not have the debt that I would have by going back to school, I have complete freedom. I can coach however I want. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I can charge whatever the fuck I want. Like, I have complete freedom. Oh, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want complete freedom over what it is that you like? When the creativity comes through you, don't you want creative control over what you're creating in your life?
Yes, but here's the piece where people run to the degree and they run to the certification. They don't trust themselves.
Yeah, of course.
And this is why we do that thing. This is why we run towards a certification, because we don't think we're good enough to do what we actually want to do. So we're like, if I have this piece of paper that tells me I'm important, then I must be important. That's the mindset behind getting more certifications. Now, I will say again, there are few people who have a very specific passion for a very specific form of education, and the only way to get that is through formal education. That's a very small percentage of the population. The majority of the population, this does not apply to you. You are in school because your parents told you to go to school, or because you have no idea what the fuck you're doing with your life. You think that being a lawyer is going to give you the money. You're not thinking about, like, one of the things I see most often with people who are like, I'm going to go study this. They think about the actual work. They don't think about the lifestyle that comes with the job.
Yep.
They never think about that. For example, if you're going to be a doctor, you can pretty much kiss your personal life goodbye. If you're going to be a committed, present, making high numbers doctor, 12 hours of your day are funneled into a hospital setting or into seeing patients, and your family life will be minimal. That is something you're going to have to deal with. That's the lifestyle that comes with. That's why I didn't go to medical school. That was up my alley. And I said, no, I love medicine. I've loved medicine since I was a child. I will not do that because I don't want that lifestyle. It was really simple for me. But we don't think about that. We don't think about what comes with it. We don't think about the debt that we're piling on. We don't think about, we imagine in our heads, this is going to be so fantastic. You plug yourself into this kind of artificial formula. Like, this is what people do. They do it backwards. They go, this is what's available out here. These are the jobs. These are the careers. These are the things that make money and kind of resonate with me. And then they try to plug themselves into that formula and see how it works, right? Like, oh, well, I kind of like that, so I'm just going to do that and see what happens. Instead of going inside of themselves and saying, like, who am I? Who the fuck actually am I? And what the fuck do I actually care about? Like, what interests me? What motivates me? What inspires me? What piques my interest? What makes me feel curious? What makes me feel connected? These are the questions that you need to be asking yourself, because here's the thing about money, you guys. It doesn't follow like letters behind your name. I've got a fuck ton of letters behind my name. And until I got in line with what motivated me internally and what brought me a sense of fulfillment and purpose, the money was nowhere to be seen. None of those degrees meant shit. They're just sitting on my wall, looking pretty. Okay? That's all they're doing. It wasn't until I connected with, like, what do I actually want to help people find? Like, I was very service oriented. I always knew I wanted to work with people. I always knew I wanted to help them. And so I went into that place of, like, how do I want to serve? And it starts with you. It starts with your story. More than likely, what you actually want to do in this world is very personally tied to your own story, to something that you've dealt with, you've experienced, you've struggled with, and you struggled with it because it was meant to become your message. It was meant to become a way that you serve. That is more often than not where people find their sense of purpose and their sense of work. And then after that comes, like, okay, what lifestyle do I want? So the kind of creative freedom that Anne just described, that's part 2 of the question. Part 1 is, who am I? What's my story? Is that part of my message and work to do here? Part 2 is, what lifestyle do I actually want? What do I want it to look like? Okay. And then the third part, actually, once you kind of get clarity on those 2 things, is what kind of internal work do I have to do so that I can become the kind of person who does this work and has this lifestyle? Like, that's it. 1, 2, 3. What internal work do I have to do? I promise you, if you're running towards degrees and you're not wanting to ask yourself these questions, is because you're terrified of the number 3 question, which is, what internal work do I have to do to become the kind of person who has this work and lives this lifestyle? Am I right, or am I right?
Yep. When I was just reading, I was reading through Jenny's earlier comment too, and what came up for me also as kind of like part 2 of my story was that, because everyone has master's degrees, but so at the point that I knew I wasn't able to get back in the classroom, then I had to ask myself, like, so what else do I do with this degree? Then it became, what are my options, right? And I've talked about this, that life is not a list of options, right? But a lot of times this is what we've been told, that life is a list of options and we have to choose from the multiple choice to figure out what the, right. And so I was like, okay, so I have a master's in early childhood. Well, what the fuck do I do with that? And so becoming a nanny was like the next logical thing. And let me tell you, parents loved the fact that I had my master's, but they didn't want to fucking pay for it. They didn't want to pay for my master's degree. They didn't want to pay for the 7 years experience that I had. They wanted, they wanted a highly qualified nanny, but a lot of people, either they didn't want to pay for it or they couldn't afford it. And so I then ended up kind of having to settle for, making less than I was making as a teacher, working more hours, because I was like, well, this is my option. This is the best option that I have. And it was in that moment that I realized that I no longer wanted anyone else to have control over how much I got paid or whether I got paid. I didn't want anyone else to have control over how I received money. And it was in that moment that I realized I want to be an entrepreneur. And so that's when I started building a business. I started building my very first business when I was working as a nanny 50 plus hours a week, because I had such clarity, right? So here's the other thing, and Shakti and I have talked about this before, that if doors keep slamming shut over and over and over and over again, pay attention, right? So I'm like trying to claw my way back into the classroom, because I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be here. And what I'm realizing now, 5 years later, is that, yes, my master's degree is serving me now, because what I'm finding is that I'm working with clients who are moms. I kept asking myself, like, why am I working with, how am I working with so many moms? I'm not a mom, right? But I'm like, oh, I'm able to like help them with their children because I have a master's degree. So not only do I have my own experience and you know, the spiritual aspect that I coach them through, but then I'm also able to help them very specifically with their children in a way that not all coaches can, you know? And so I found a way to utilize it, but do I think that it was worth getting my master's degree? No. Like, I could be just as successful of a coach without without the child, you know, development aspect of it. But I'm like, well, I guess at least I'm still using my master's degree. And they know when Shakti boxers me and she's like, hey, what's your opinion on this? I'm like, oh, okay, here comes my master's degree.
Insane. Help me. I do that like all the time. What the fuck is a 2-year-old even thinking? Like half the time. My God. That's how I feel as a parent. That's okay. No, I don't know what's happening. So I will say that the whole door slamming shut thing, I have a really good example of that. So I have 2 degrees. I have one in classical history and another one in creative writing. And I wanted to go for a master's in classics when I was in school. I've been a straight A student my entire life. I have honors everywhere I go. I graduated number 7 out of a class of 800 in high school. I'm insanely like adept at school. Very gifted at that. It's super easy for me. I remember fucking everything and I can regurgitate it like a boss. Like, that's not hard for me at all. So when I graduated, you know, I had like 4 languages under my belt and I was like, I'm just going to pursue classics because I started really wanting to do writing, but I fell in love with occult mystery religions and classical history. And I was like, I'm going to pursue that. I want to be on the ivory tower for the rest of my life, go all the way to the top. And I didn't have German. And they required German for my master's degree. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I speak like 4 languages and you need German of all languages. And they're like, yeah, well, a lot of the research is coming out of Germany. If you can't read German or understand it, like, you won't be able to do a lot of the research. And I knew I was not going to learn German. Like, I just knew this was the end of the road because I was not going to learn German.
I wanted to learn German. I could have done that.
I bought a book. I was like, fuck this. I'm not going to hire you. Like, I didn't want to learn German. That wasn't like a desire of mine, but I did want to do this course of study. So I took that as a door closing and I was like, okay, well, I guess this is the end of the road for that. I got a bunch of offers for almost fully paid PhD course studies at Stanford University for literature, and I turned them down. And most people would be like, you're an idiot. And a part of me was like, I am. But I now see why that wasn't supposed to be where I went. I went to a massage school, and then after that, I was like, you know what? I love kinesiology. I think I want to do PT. So I pursued this pre-PT thing, getting all these classes in order so I could go into a physical therapy school. And then it was like one thing after another, like door slam, door slam, door slam. Tried to apply to this program, door slam, this program, door slam. And I was like, I don't get it. I'm extremely qualified. Like, I'm like in Anne's case, I'm like, I'm almost overqualified to get into this program. Like, I don't understand why this isn't working out. And it took a long time for me, to run into my intuitive gifts, which began really my passion for this entrepreneurial venture. And, you know, really realizing how adept I was at tapping in and receiving messages for people and communicating with them via those messages. And then eventually I got into Beachbody coaching, which now combines everything that I love and that I do. It combines all of my intuitive gifts, my passion for healthy body, healthy living, and healthy nutrition, because I have a story of like really hating my body, and I have a story of really struggling with rejecting nourishment and hurting myself and self-harm with food. And I have a story with not making time for myself and not taking care of myself. So of course, naturally, I end up in a line of work where that's like all I talk to people about all day long now. Like, that's my job now, and I love it, and it is so fulfilling. And guess what? It's been the most prosperous business venture I've ever had. Why? Because it's so tied into my story. It was born from a place of deep understanding and deep love and a deep desire to help other people be free of that suffering. So of course, now that is what has brought me a lot of prosperity. It has brought me a lot of joy and fulfillment. And guess what? It required no certification. It required no degree. It required no specialized training to be a Beachbody coach and do, you know, what I'm doing now. And a lot of people poo-poo what we do. We're both Beachbody coaches and we do other stuff as well, but they look down on what we do because we don't have those fancy degrees or we don't have those things. And what they're not seeing is just how many people's lives we change every single day with this work and how immensely fulfilling that is, degreeless, right? Like requiring no degree, and how prosperous it is as well, because it's being fueled by that love of the work, of the service. And so I just feel like it's important to remind you guys of how many options there are in the world, especially given the digital age that we live in, and how many opportunities there are. Like, gosh, you can literally, what did I say to you, Anne, when I lectured you? I'm like, there are like a million 21-year-olds making 6 figures on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, talking about fucking lip gloss. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's the world we're in, you guys.
Right.
That's where the money is. That is where the money is. It's no longer about how many textbooks can I absorb and regurgitate and take some tests. It's like YouTube videos. That's like it.
Well, and I think part of it too is that, I mean, so obviously we've been raised with the story, right? That like you have to struggle and get your card punched and wait your turn and earn it, you know, you have to earn like all that shit, right? We've all been told the same story, which our parents were told, right? So it makes sense that it got passed down to us. It is what it is. But, you know, as Shakti's talking, I'm like, I feel like we should like talk about like, okay, so what do you do? Right? Like, okay, so I feel like we have all these people sitting out there like, okay, cool. So I'm not going to go to school, but like, what the fuck do I do? Like, how? So how do we get the money? Right? Because that's always the question, like, but how do we get the money? Well, Shakti is also an alignment coach in addition to being a Beachbody coach. I'm also a spiritual mindset coach. And so what Shakti and I have been working on in our own individual journeys is really understanding money. Like we have really studied money. If you're going to study anything, like if you're going to use your time on anything, read like prosperity classics, right? Like read Think and Grow Rich. I'm reading The Science of Getting Rich right now. What?
Mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen to podcasts, like really educate yourself. And so I really had a hard time at the very beginning understanding that you could actually make more money when you are really in the energy of joy. I was like, that just doesn't make sense because that's not what we've been taught, right? But what I've been learning and really implementing in my own life, and like, you know, so Shakti teaches a lot on alignment. I teach on alignment, but kind of in a different way or from a different perspective. And what I teach my clients and the way that I really understood money, right? So money and love are the same vibration. It's the highest vibration, right? It's the highest vibration. And so when it finally started to really click for me, I had to ask myself, like, okay, so how do we receive? In order to receive money, how do we remain open to in order to like receive it? And I realized, okay, so if money and love are the same vibration, then in order to receive money, you have to be open to receiving love. In order to be open to receiving love, you have to be open to receiving love from yourself. What does that look like? Self-care, self-love, like really showing up for yourself. And Shakti and I can both say that when we are very diligent about showing up for our self-care, body, mind, and soul, the money flows in a lot faster and a lot more easy, right? Because there's no resistance. Like there's no resistance. And when you're in the flow, when you're in alignment, doing what it is that you love, when you're in, that's another thing, right? When you're in the energy of love, doing what you love, experiencing the joy, that's where money also comes in. That's where you start to receive those intuitive nudges of like, oh, hey, reach out to that person. Oh, hey, go take a walk, and then you run into someone. Oh, hey, you know, go do whatever. But so often we think, well, that doesn't make sense. I need to work harder. I need to do more. But you can actually work less. It's not about not working at all, but you can work less and only really doing the things that you genuinely love and receive much easier.
Amen to all of that. It's just, I mean, we hear this all the time, but I think it's hard to digest that money is really just energy. It's another form of energy. It's another expression of energy. And I offered a formula really early on in this video on how to connect with, like, what do you do? How do you connect with prosperity? And it is always about you. You are the connecting source. So if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not showing up for yourself, body, mind, and spirit, if you're walking around super disconnected, it's not a surprise you're going to be like, I don't know what to do with my life. I don't know. I have no money. I feel broke all the time. And I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, you don't know what you're doing because you don't even know who you are. You have no sense of self. You have no sense of like what you value and what's important to you. And there's nothing from which to tap into that. Keeler Jonas says, if you're great at something, don't do it for free.
Right. Well, that's the thing, right? Sure. Like we think that if it comes easy to us, then like we shouldn't be able to charge money for something that comes naturally to us. But those are the things you should be charging money for. If it feels easy and natural, those are the things to be charging money for. Like that's probably your calling.
Because that was born of you.
Right.
Again, it was born of you. It wasn't artificially implanted in your brain. I mean, it's such a difference because here's the thing, guys. A fuck ton of money is not going to make you happy. It's just going to make you a fuck ton of money. That's it. And we make a huge mistake when we imagine that we are going to have this certain profession that gives you so much money and then you're going to be miraculously happy. I can't tell you how many wealthy people are insanely miserable.
Yep.
And you hear this all the time. Commit suicide, jump off a building, like overdose on pills, become drug addicts. Why? Why do really successful people with a lot of money, why does that happen to them? Why do they still have depression if all of a sudden all this money, they're super wealthy, because it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference, you guys. It's not about the money. And if you consistently make it about the money by chasing these degrees and chasing these certifications, you're always going to be miserable. What you're looking for is a feeling. And the feeling you're looking for is connection to yourself. So if you just start there, if you just start with the practices that you know connect you to you, your body, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, taking care of your spirit, from that place, you will find the very next logical step for you, which will lead you into that vibration of prosperity. But it doesn't work the other way around at all. And when you try to make it work the other way around, I mean, you see the natural consequences all around us. You see people all the time who do crazy things, who are so successful and you'd think would be living amazing lives, and then they don't. They don't have that.
How do you let go of a job that you love but doesn't actually exist anymore? It's been phased out with the growth of technology.
It sounds like your identity was really tied to that thing.
Well, and even though my story is slightly different, that's basically, I went through an identity crisis, Julie. I don't know if you were on at the beginning, but I talked about when I lost my teaching career, right? And so I could not get back in the classroom. I probably could have if I moved somewhere else, but I wasn't leaving Chicago. I couldn't get back in the classroom. And I sat on the couch for 2 weeks sobbing because I didn't know who I was anymore. Like I did not know who I was if I wasn't a teacher. I didn't know who I was if I wasn't in the classroom. I did not know what to do because I was like, no one teaches you like what to do when you lose your career. That wasn't a plan. It wasn't a plan to lose my career, right? Like you go to school, you get your master's degree, you go into the classroom. I was like, I was going to retire a teacher. That was my plan. That was my life plan. What happens when God laughs at your life plan, right? You have to find another life plan. And it really goes, I had to really dig deep and tap in and ask myself, like, what do I want? And it took time. Like it really took time, but I realized with the freedom, like it ended up feeling like freedom, right? Eventually, I was like, oh, I don't have to go back in the classroom. I actually get to start my life over. I get to actually finally do whatever it is that I want to do. I can guarantee you that if I had not lost my job, I don't know. I mean, I guess, I don't know, I probably would have still ended up on this path somehow, probably in a more painful experience. But I couldn't see myself walking out of the classroom, quitting my career to be an entrepreneur. So now looking back, I'm extremely grateful that I lost my job in the way that I did because it forced me on this path.
Yep. when that happens, that's because our identity gets wrapped up in what we do. We mistake our job for us. And I can wholeheartedly attest to that, being a therapist now for almost 6, going on 7 years. The idea of walking away from doing that is extremely painful to me because I do have an identity built up around it. And, you know, not only that, but I'm good at my job. I'm good at what I do. Now, will I be doing it in the capacity that I do it now? No, I won't be. But I already see how even letting it go a little bit, because other things are taking my time that I'm enjoying more, is creating that sense of distress. Because when we do something, especially if we do it long term, we do forget, like, we are not our job. We are not a degree. We are not anything except this, what's inside this, which is formless, which is nameless, which is limitless, which has no gender, which has no race, no ethnicity. We are that. And we forget that we are that when we don't meditate, when we don't go into the silence, when we don't take the time to intentionally connect with the all that is, and which is also who we are inside. And so when we don't take the time to connect, it's very, very easy for you to think that you're all these other things, that you're your job, that you're a mom, that you're the amount of money you have in your bank account, that you're how your body looks. You are not any of those things at all. You are something completely other than that and all encompassing. And when we struggle with letting go of things, it's because we've forgotten who we are. That's really what it is.
Yeah. It's like I don't have anything to add to that.
I know that's deep as fuck. I just went like way metaphysical. Like I jumped off the metaphysical bridge, but that's the truth. That is the ultimate truth.
Yeah. And as Shakti said, like, that's why we meditate, right? Like when we meditate, we realize that shit in the physical realm and the 3D world doesn't matter. And this is why we both require meditation for our clients and our coaches, right? Because otherwise you don't know who you are. And you can't trust yourself. You can't trust to follow the intuitive nudges, because when you're not meditating, when you're not connecting to yourself in that way on a daily basis, then you are ruled by ego all day long. Yep. And when you're ruled by ego all day long, what's actually happening is you're ruled by fear all day long. Yep. And then if you are making decisions from fear, you are perpetuating that in your life.
Yep. And when, I see it when coaches come into this business and they're like coaches on our team, they come in and they're like, well, how do I work this business? Of course, they get like basic training. You're going to get training on how to run a business for sure. But outside of that, outside of any technical thing that we can give you, your business is an extension of who you are. And the only way you're going to know what your right next steps are if you're going into the silence and actually getting to know who you are. You can't know that unless you know who you are. So how I work my business, how Anne works her business, how anybody else on our team works their business is specific and tailored to who they are as an individual, as a soul spark, as a fragment of the all that is of the divine, right? And that's how we show up, and that's how we serve, and because we know and we trust who we are, but we take the time to know that, to connect there. So whenever someone's like, and this used to happen to me not too long ago, I was in this disconnection phase. I'd be like, I don't know what to do. Do you know that I haven't said I don't know in almost like 2 years? Like really, I don't know. Like that real feeling of not knowing. Like I don't say that anymore, because whenever we say I don't know, what that means is you haven't connected to yourself. You're disconnected. You always know. There's always an immediate ping. Yes, no. Do you want to eat this for dinner? Yes, no. Do you want to wear this? Yes, no. Resistance, or there's an immediate excitement that comes with stuff. But we're just not listening. We're not listening. We're walking around like little zombies, controlled by a clock, watch, beeping things. Everything's beeping these days and sending messages your way. This is the thing. You need to connect. You've got to connect.
The other time I use I don't know, because I will in I should say opposite of Shakti, I have used I don't know multiple times, probably recently even, and I find that, and this is actually something that came up years ago in therapy when I was like in high school, right? The therapist would ask me a question, and my immediate response would be I don't know. And she asked me, do you not know or do you not want to say? And it was that I didn't want to say, because part of it was that I didn't know how to be perceived. I didn't know if I was going to be judged. I didn't know if it'd be accepted. I didn't know, we have this, again, not trusting ourselves, right? And so it became like this knee-jerk reaction where someone asked me a question, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And I've noticed it even now on my journey. So for those of you who are new to my story, I've been living on the road for about the last year, and I get asked all the time. Like if I could make money for all the times I'm asked, where are you headed next? I'd be a fucking millionaire, right? Like where are you headed next? I don't know. And I notice it's a knee-jerk reaction still. Part of it is that it's not that I don't know. I haven't gone into the silence to really listen to what is next. And I haven't felt the desire to. I don't care to know. That's really like right now, I don't care to know what's next. I know what's next for the next 2.5 weeks, and beyond that, I don't care to know, right? Mm-hmm. But I do find myself saying I don't know, because ego fears if I say what's next, and if it doesn't happen, will I be judged? So there's a lot of reasons, right, why you may be saying I don't know, but like Shakti said, it's not that you don't know. It's that something is either you don't care to know or you don't want to say. Those are like the top two reasons, I would say.
And yeah, I mean, and if you really don't want to say, that's like a disconnection piece. Like, why don't you want to say it? Like, what's happening that you don't want to say it? There's a disconnection. There's a disconnect, right? And that happens to a lot of us because we're programmed to not say what we want. I mean, we're afraid of repercussions. We're afraid of our parents not approving. We're afraid of blah, blah, blah. So we just get used to saying, I don't know. You know where I really picked up that habit was in romantic relationships, because I didn't want to be honest about how I felt.
Yep.
And that, if your partner asks you a question about how you feel about them and you say, I don't know, I'm calling you out right now. It's not that you don't know. It's that you don't want to say the truth. That's that simple. And the problem is that if you say something long enough, it'll stick. And then you start saying it with a lot of other things that are really important in your life. And then you start to convince yourself that you really don't know. And that's a dangerous ledge to walk. Because when you start to say that, you start giving your power away, and you forget that you're the creator of your experience and the creator of your life. And then you let other people come in and control how you think. And that's why that's super dangerous. So if there's anything you're going to take away from this talk, it's that you are in control of your mind 100,000%. And what you think and how much time you spend in the silence, getting to know who you are, the source of who you are, that is the most important thing you need to tend to. You. Getting to know you, going to the silence, taking care of you. Because from that place, everything comes. It's magic. And it works that way.
Yep.
Just does.
It does. It does. There's nothing more important than connecting with yourself on a daily basis. And so the last 2 days, today and yesterday, I've been traveling. And I still stick with my morning routine when I travel. But there are some things that have had to be shifted around a little bit, right? Because it's not just me. Like, I'm traveling with 2 cats. There's a lot to juggle. And so what I tell my clients is, if you have a morning where your routine is slightly off, right? Where it's not like your morning isn't going quite as planned, or you know that your schedule's just a little bit different, to at least have a non-negotiable that you have to get done. So so this morning I did a workout and I haven't meditated yet. I was like, I have a 7-hour drive by myself. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm like, I can tell, I can feel the difference. I can feel the disconnect. I can feel that I haven't sat down for an hour today to sit with myself. And I'm like starting to crave it, right? Because yesterday was a shorter meditation, which happened in the evening. And so I'm noticing, right, that like I'm really craving it. And you will start to really crave it when you're connected, because you're developing this relationship. It's just like developing a relationship with anyone else, right? When you really start to get to know them and you really love them, and you notice like the little things about them, right? You have this connection with them, and you'll start to develop that same thing with yourself. And then when you aren't connecting, you'll miss yourself. Like, it's a real thing. Just like you miss other people, like you miss yourself. You're like, God, I really haven't been hanging out with myself for a while. Kind of wonder what I've been up to. We should catch up. Yeah, it happens.
So true. That's so accurate. I don't think there's really much else we can add to this conversation.
No, I think this is
it's pretty deep.
Yeah.
This went deep fast.
Yep. That's kind of what we do.
True. True.
Right,
well, if you have any questions or comments, please post them below. This is a really powerful conversation. We're happy to continue it. Of course, as Anne said earlier, tag, share, whoever you feel might need this message or this could hear this message, please make sure it gets to them. You can also contact us individually or together if you comment down here and want to talk to us. But, we are both in the fitness and nutrition world working together. We work on the same team, and we help each other out and help our teams out collectively. And then we are also offer services individually as well. So if any of this resonates, you need more clarity, you need help, please reach out to us. We're here for you. That's why we're here. That's why we do this, so that you guys know that you have a resource to reach out to connect to for clarity.
And that's it. That's it. She wrapped it up well. All right, guys, we will be coming at you next Monday, as always, and have a wonderful rest of your week.